Thinking about turning your podcast into an ebook? Well, I got some tips for you. I got some advantages and disadvantages, and I'll talk you through the process. If that sounds like something that's interesting to you, please stay tuned. Welcome to Reinventing Perspectives, and my name is Priscilla. So let's dive right in. I recently just finished the process of turning a season of my podcast into an ebook and a paperback book. It's almost a no-brainer if you already have a podcast. And I'll talk you through some advantages of this. Look, you already did a lot of research for your podcast episode. Turning it into a book is just another way of reaching an audience that might not already follow you through your podcast. And you don't want that work that you did to kind of go to waste. The starting process is pretty simple. Transcribe all your podcast episodes into text, so you already have a skeleton for the book. But it's not that easy. It's not that simple. Okay, so you already have the skeleton for your book, which is great. So you're not starting from zero, you're starting from somewhere already. And the other advantage is, if you've been promoting your podcast on various platforms, you already know which episodes and which messages resonated with your audience, and you know what people want to hear from you, which is great. It helps one in marketing the book because you know which messages people really love to hear, and it also helps because you're creating a book not from a place of not knowing what the audience wants. Creating a book already knowing, okay, this is what my niche audience likes to hear. So you're creating a book that someone who is your target audience would enjoy, which is a great place to start, because typically when you're writing a book, you don't really know how it's going to reach the reader. So use your analytics on whether it's Twitter or Facebook or on your blog. Look at the analytics and understand which messages resonated, and then highlight those as themes for the book. So start there. You have your skeleton, all the text. Now from all the text, highlight the things that resonated with your audience most. If you believe in the message, you want it to reach as many people as possible. Not only because you've done a lot of work, but because you believe the message is of value. The reality of it, people say it's easy to turn your podcast episodes into an ebook, and it really isn't. Because yes, you have the skeleton to start with, but also remember, spoken word is different from written word. So you're going to have to go into your skeleton and you want to change the language, because there's certain things that when you're saying them, they sound okay, but when you read them, it's like, For example, when I'm talking, it's okay for me to use language like, so this happened and then that happened, and it's okay because you're listening. But once you're reading, to read a sentence where someone uses so, it comes across as sloppy and messy, and the message can kind of get lost. Because once you write, you want the message to be hard-hitting and you want it to be clear. So change the spoken language into written language. Just clean it up a little bit, because you still want it to sound like yourself, but you want it just to be a little bit cleaner. The other thing is, you also want to add more detail to the topics that you've identified that your audience loves to hear more about. Because when you're having an interview or you're doing a monologue on your podcast, you can't really dive deep into the meat and bones of things, just because you don't want to fatigue the listener. Because you can only listen to someone talking for so long before you get tired. So turning it into an ebook is your opportunity to go deeper into the things that your audience wants to hear about. Plus, you're also adding value. Some people say just turn the podcast into an ebook by transcribing and put it out in the market. I wouldn't advise that, just because, let's say your audience which listens to you wants to buy your book, because that's another way that you're going to promote your book, and they buy a book only to find that it's all the stuff that they already listened to in your podcast episode, which was free. It doesn't sit well. Okay, so you want to make sure that you really go in and add meat and bone and detail to all the things that you realize that your audience loves. You want to give them more of what they want. So put in more detail, do more research, and flesh out those themes and topics. You want to consider the flow and sequence of things. Because if you're combining different episodes together to form a book, a little tip, write them all down on sticky notes and then figure out what should go first and what should go later because you want your book to flow. Whatever additions you make, you want to make sure that you over deliver in value. You want the person who, if they listen to your podcast episode and they loved it, when they read your book, they're totally oversatisfied with the information that you've given. So in terms of packaging your book, I think you have two options. This is just my opinion. You can give it away as a freebie, or you use it as a lead magnet to get the contact details of your audience. Because the thing about having a podcast is, yes, people download your episodes and you have an audience that follows your work, but you don't know who they are. Plus, they may download this episode and maybe skip that episode, and people typically follow several podcasts for different reasons. So if you had something you wanted to offer your audience, you don't know how to contact them. So converting the ebook into a freebie that uses a lead magnet, maybe on your website, that you offer them and say, if you love this episode, go to our website, download the free ebook, and get more information on this episode. So you'd put that at the end of all the episodes that you realize that the audience loved. That way you're growing an email list that you'll use later on to contact your audience when you have other offerings. The other option is taking it straight to market. You can self-publish the book yourself as an ebook, as a paperback, and as an audiobook. What this does is you're positioning yourself as an expert in a certain area. But just a reminder to consider, if you're going to be using podcast episodes where you interviewed people, please make sure that you have the permission of the people you interviewed to use their names and to use their information in your book. Whatever you do, make sure that you put in the work to make sure that your ebook is over-delivering in value. And if you're going to go the market route, make sure that your book is shelf-worthy. You want to look at books that are similar in that space where you're writing about, and just make sure that your book is comparable and better. At the end of the day, you're not just producing an ebook, it's part of your brand and it's part of your business. After all the writing is done and all the research is done, I'm sorry to say the work is just beginning. You need to promote that ebook to your audience and all your social media handles. I've seen people do this where they do a reading of a chapter of the book just to draw people in on YouTube and on Instagram. You could do this on an Instagram reel. Take a few paragraphs and read them out in an Instagram reel and keep putting those out just to draw people into what you're doing. Be creative with your marketing, enjoy it because you've put in the work and you want to get the most out of it. So really make sure that you go out and promote that ebook. I've done a video on 6 tips for the early entrepreneur as far as promoting. I'll link that down below, so do check that one out. At the end of the day, please always remember, bestseller doesn't mean best written. It means best sold. So after you've done your writing, I know it's tiring, it's exhausting. By the time you're done, you're over it. But the work is just beginning, and to get that book to be something that reaches people and helps people in the way that you intended when you're writing, you need to push it to the market and make sure that people get to know about it and people get access to your work. If you found any value out of this, please do hit the like button, subscribe for more content. My area is Christianity and entrepreneurship. The purpose of my channel is really to help people stay in faith, stay inspired, stay relevant, and stay encouraged. And I hope that I managed to do this through these videos. Thank you, and have a great holiday. Have a great festive season. Thank you.